Episode 1 starts with Halan, Stephan James, stuck in some sort of airlock, communicating through camera with Aster, Lena Headey, that someone is coming towards the beacon. The ship boards them and forces the airlock open. This seems to be a later scene in the current storyline, as the show flashback to an earlier time, where Halan is Sol, the Beacon-keeper. A great thing about this show is the bright, colorful special effects, as we see the incoming ship moving through space. The beacon doesn't say what year it is, or like other series is in a galaxy far, far away. We see that something goes wrong with the communication system, and the incoming ship is approaching a dark matter hazard. The incoming ship is a PFTR Crest cargo ship with 8 passengers. Halan tries to communicate to the ship and get it to reroute to avoid the dark matter cloud, but the comms are offline. The beacon's job, which is like a lighthouse, beams a warning light in a red color to make the ship aware of danger. For some reason, the light system has failed and remains the all-clear color of white light, regardless of Halan manually designating it as hazardous. The computer system obstruction warning estimates 9 mins until collision with a dark matter cloud. Halan springs into action and changes into his spacesuit to go outside the ship to alert the ship and manually change the signal. He gets up to the beacon light and tries to jam the controls, but it's impossible to stop. The ship collides and explodes. Halan is heartbroken over his inability to save the ship's crew. Luckily, there's one life sign detected in the debris. It's a sleeping pod that breached the hull. According to the ship's protocols, a rescue attempt is approved, and Halan, once again, springs into action. He rescues the pod, and we are introduced to Aster, Lena Headey, who is comfortably tucked in on the pod's life support. She wakes and informs her that the beacon malfunctioned, and it seemed like the ship's systems were hacked, preventing him from alerting the crest. After Aster comes to and eats, is when the twist begins. Halan introduces himself as Solomon, and Aster says she knows. Halan is skeptical of this, because he knows he didn't introduce himself. How does she know? Aster informs Halan, aka Solomon, that her destination was the beacon, specifically Beacon 23. Her story is that the company, ASI, sent reports of her arrival months ago, and she's surprised he doesn't remember. Halan, aka Solomon, plays along and say, "Oh yes, the reports I remember." Aster explains that her reports were in response to his reports about the unknown mineral stating, like nothing he had seen before. Aster explains that she came for the samples and needs access to data records. Halan, aka Solomon, gets extremely defensive and denies her requests to access the computer records. Halan, aka Solomon, suggests she get some rest while he reviews the crash cleanup protocol, which to Aster seems extremely strange. Skeptical of his behavior, Aster grabs a knife from the kitchen. In her room, she pulls out a communicator and starts talking to someone on a hidden communicator. She starts walking around the level, and when she looks over the railing, she finds Halan, aka Solomon, creepily looking back at her. Surprised, she pulls back from the railing, but when she looks back, he's gone. She continues to explore the control room area and notices all the buttons on the control unit are labeled with tape, as if someone was operating them, but didn't know how they worked. This is weird to Aster, because she knows that each beacon operator is extensively trained before arrival. She starts to wonder if Solomon is really who he says he is. The next scene, we see Halan, aka Solomon, leaning against the light beacon next to a sign that says, "Do not lean gravity waves, cause side effects, including hallucinations and mood swings." There are not drugs aboard the beacon, but this is as close as they can come. While intoxicating himself, he stares at the famous lighthouse photo from in 1989, taken by photographer Jean Guichard, who circled above the French lighthouse of La Jugement amidst a raging storm off the Brittany coast of France. At that very moment of the picture, a giant wave rose over the rear of the lighthouse, and the photographer Guichard took his world-famous shot as the wave smashed against the tower. The man in the picture, Malgorn, suddenly realizing that a giant wave was about to engulf the structure, rushed back inside just in time to save his life from being swept into the sea. Halan feels a lot like the guy in the photo, isolated, stuck, and in danger. The camera pans, and we see the light is generated by some sort of black hole. Aster continues exploring the ship and enlists the help of the onboard eye device called BART. BART leads her to one of the samples she's looking for, and also asks for access to the data files from the discovery. Aster finds out the Beacon-keeper has been leaving the lighthouse, which is against ASI protocol. She watches the docking video and sees someone else on the video who is listed as Solomon, and finds out that Halan is not Solomon. At that time, Halan enters the room and finds out what she has been doing, and they both confront each other. Halan explains that Solomon stole his ship he arrived on and left. Seeming not to care, Aster says it's okay and says she will take her samples and leave. Halan notices that she is holding the knife she picked up from the kitchen. They get into a scuffle, and Aster stabs Halan before he chokes her out. Aster wakes up to find herself chained up, unable to move freely around the station. Halan, thinking he handled the situation, walks down to the control room and finds another visitor named Harmony, and falls for the old nice-to-meet-you hand trick, locking him in the airlock. And Harmony revealing that she is not a real person, but Aster's personal AI. Together, they restore the beacon's AI voice and reveal that Halan killed the real Solomon. Once locked in the airlock, Aster starts looking for the samples again. After questioning Halan, Aster believes his story and decides to let him out of the airlock to help look for the samples. They start looking, and Aster finds the antenna access barn, and Halan starts having a weird reaction when she opens the door and runs away. Aster goes back and finds the samples. Then, this is where the series catches up to the beginning, where strangers are boarding the ship, and Aster makes the call to leave Halan locked in airlock 1, ending episode 1. What will happen to Halan? What will Aster do with the samples? Who is boarding the ship? Why doesn't Aster care what happened to the original Beacon lighthouse keeper? What is Halan doing there? And more importantly, what is Aster doing there? On behalf of the Movie Guru and Movie Guru Media, thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. If you want more Beacon 23 content, please watch our interview with executive producer Glenn Mazzara on the show and its creation. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next video.